Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about why I find myself at odds with the if it fits your macros or flexible dieting type approach as it has become, in today's world. And I honestly feel like it's not evidence based, right? It's its own dogmatic cult that ignores scientific research. It ignores scientific research and just pretends it doesn't exist because it lives on the altar of calories in, calories out. And they treat that almost like a religious belief. Now, I agree with calories in, calories out. I think it is the most important factor for weight gain and weight loss, right? As far as tissue goes, not necessarily inflammation or water weight, but actual changes in tissue weight. Yeah, absolutely. It is by far and large the dominant factor. But the issue here is the health side. And I will be the first to say that there are certain athletes who have such high calorie needs, especially when they're not cutting, that okay, they absolutely might need to work in some junk food or lots of highly refined foods just to hit their target calories and keep their fiber low enough to do it because they won't be able to get their calories. But for the vast majority of people, that simply isn't the case. And here's my issue with it. I feel like they only care about body fat loss and they don't even really care about body composition when they're discussing it because nutrient deficiencies in health and fitness absolutely impact that. And here's where it comes down to. I know a coach personally, a strength coach, who has made this statement, and he's all right, younger than me, weaker than me, on anabolics, and has a higher body fat than me. Let's just leave it at that. I still like him. Okay, but there's your context. And he will say, well, look, there's no point in eating beyond the RDA and any of these various things. So really, he's like, I don't need that many fruits or vegetables or whatever. I just need enough to hit the RDAs, and I can just fill my macros with whatever I want every day. And that was never the intended idea behind it. Really, the guy who got the push started for all this stuff, I think, was my friend Alan Aragon. We're still friends. We've been friends for 16 plus years, I think. And Alan, and yes, Alan will admit that. Poor people say, no, you're not. Ask him. He'll tell you. Alan had meant that as to have flexibility for going out to eat to a restaurant or for social events and parties and things. That is the reason what he meant by the flexible dieting. The intent was not that people would eat ice cream and Pop-Tarts and junk food every day. It's that when they needed to do these things, you could get your macros for them for roughly for the food that you were eating and work it into your calories and stuff for the day. That was the idea when you go to these various social events, you go out to eat. Okay, it wasn't intended as, hey, I'm going to work in 20% garbage into my diet 7 days a week, which is what it has become. And these people, for some reason, decided on this 20% arbitrarily. Oftentimes, there's no data or science behind it. But that was never his intention, and that's what it's turned into. And here's the problem with that. If we're going to talk about health outcomes, and if we're going to be athletes, particularly my age, you're going to be a master's athlete. You're going to be over 40. In my case, over 45. I'm in my late 40s. All right? And you're going to be a serious athlete. Your health will affect your performance, recovery, muscle mass, all those things. And what does the overwhelming data always show? When studies look at things like fruits and vegetables, especially when they compare it to highly refined things, refined carbohydrates, table sugars, all that stuff, what do we consistently find? Study after study after study, better health markers. The more servings of fruits and vegetables that a person eats every day, on average, when they look at the data, they have better health markers and better blood work. All right, we see an issue here. All right. Same thing with stuff like refined sugars. When refined sugar intake gets really high, and a lot of people who follow this type of dieting approach can hit the numbers that we're concerned with. Refined sugars in excess, and these people say, well, that's only in excess, but you're probably possibly eating excess. Almost half of Americans eat it in excess. And that's one reason we see the problems that we have. It's the excess. Because their idea of moderating it might not be moderating it. In moderation, sure, your body can handle it. But moderation doesn't mean 500 calories. Okay, therein lies the problem. All right, we start talking refined fructose and things. All right, you're eating 500 calories of table sugar every day. Well, we're in excess at that point. We're at the point where you're going to start seeing elevated triglycerides. You're going to start seeing fatty liver and all these issues. Well, this becomes a problem for your recovery and training. Even worse, you stack that with some very casual drinking, then we really are going to see some interesting stuff with your blood work. You're not going to be healthy. You're not going to be healthy unless you are so athletic and extreme that you just burn through all of that quickly, which again, the problem is the liver still has to process the fructose. And again, I'm not saying all fructose is bad. I'm not talking about in fruit. I'm talking about fructose that enters your bloodstream in the upper intestine. It doesn't have to be broken down by the gut flora. All right, in excess, it's a problem. That's the sort of stuff that we have, that we look at when we look at this data. But the reality is, the more fruits and vegetables that you eat, the better these things are. Same way we could even make the argument for animal source proteins or protein in general. Very high protein diets have body composition benefits. So you start looking at where they're filling their junk food, and it's like, but you would have better body composition if you filled that 20% discretionary window with protein. You would have better health markers if you filled it with fruits and vegetables or nuts, right? You know, your polyunsaturated fats. And this is not my opinion. This is what the data shows. And that's the issue. What does the data show? The same thing with hunger cues and stuff. It's harder to adhere to your diet. I mean, for people who've never been morbidly obese, they can say, well, I don't have that problem as much. Yeah, but anyone who's ever been fat does. And a lot of these people who push this stuff, that's your clients, that's your audience. Okay, that's your audience. These are not people who can easily stay 12% body fat year round. These are people who maybe have struggled with a history of obesity. Right? These are going to be triggers for these people to binge eat. They're also going to be triggers for them to have different leptin responses than those of you who've never been fat. Those of us who've been fat, we have a different response to food and our appetite. And it doesn't go away just because we get into shape. Like anyone like me who's lost 100 pounds of body fat or more in the past, yeah. There are things about our appetites and the way that we respond to foods that are going to be different. And this is a problem for these people. And that's my real issue with the if it fits your macros, is that it's not evidence-based. Outside of the calories in, calories out component, it's completely anti-science and it's completely anti-health. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.